Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Historical Humans podcast. My name is Justin Woods, and I'm joined today by my fellow co-hosts, Colum Coleman and Aaron Gilpin. And today we are traveling to the southern tip of Africa, going way on down to South Africa to talk about one of the most interesting tribes that almost toppled the British Empire. And that is such a great way to start this off.
Yes, we have the ever infamous Zulu, a a people so fearsome that their name made it onto the military call sign alphabet there as the call sign for the letter Z.
That's where he came from. I
Yep.
had not even realized. I knew.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Zulu, Zulu, Zulu. As in, run the hell away. The Zulu are here.
Yeah, it's quite literally, essentially, you're going through plan A through Z. Z is run.
See a Zulu, you get the
Z
hell
is
out.
run, and the call sign for it is Zulu.
Oh my god, that is incredible. I had no idea.
It's a great time.
This is funny.
It is unfortunate. I mean, spoilers. It is unfortunate what happens later on.
Yeah. But first, we have to figure out who these Zulu are, and then we can discover why they inspire such fear in Englishmen.
Like,
So-
deservedly so.
I mean,
Yeah,
anything that can make the British fear are my fans already. Or I'm a
Quiet
fan
Thailand.
of. What?
Quiet Thailand. That's a whole thing in Thailand with a certain man from World War II.
Oh.
As the philosophy that anyone who makes the French and British afraid is a good person. That was the mentality.
Yikes.
It is not okay.
Okay.
It is not okay.
Less problematic one then.
Yeah.
That's
Enough.
wow, weird. Here, interesting
Wait.
segue thing.
Interesting segue. So let's see who the Zulu are, shall we? Let's open the box. It's yep, they're not German. They are in fact a Nguni speaking people and a branch of the Southern Bantu.
Wait, is it is I thought it was like it's is it like or something like that?
I don't know. I speak none of these languages.
Oh, did we learn
I
nothing
have-
from Stanlaw's class?
I have no idea what I'm doing.
I apologize.
I
I
should not
see.
have passed linguistics. That's all I'm saying.
I
should
seem
not
to
have
have
passed.
missed-
277 and that was it.
I
You said
seem
that's
to have
good.
missed the sub-Saharan African language classes. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Also, we're Americans. Since when have we ever said things the way they're supposed to be pronounced? And
It gives me
Anyway.
an idea.
yeah. Anyway, the Zulu. They currently reside, because this ethnic group continues to exist and thrive to this day, in the KwaZulu-Natal province of South Africa. And the northeastern part of this province is the traditional Zulu homeland. This will come up later when they start messing with things. Because oh dear God, does this little region just explode during the height of the Zulus' power?
Of course it does. I would expect nothing less at that rate.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, some more basic facts here for the Zulu is they are currently comprise the single largest ethnic group in South Africa. Because yeah, they get pretty freaking massive in the 19th century, and there's not a lot anyone can do about it. They are traditionally grain farmers and cattle herders, and they are completely unremarkable until about 200 years ago. At the start of the 19th century, it is estimated that Zulu were one of maybe 800 Nguni clans, and that they had a population of maybe 1,500 people, making them one of the smallest of all the tribes.
So how did they go from being one of the smallest tribes of many to one of the strongest that
Yep.
almost toppled the English Empire.
Yeah,
British
they're the
Empire.
largest today. They get massive, and the answer to that is extreme violence.
Well,
Hmm.
that's one way to solve a problem, I guess.
Yep, yep. The Zulu expands during
Oh.
during the reign of a chieftain known as Shaka Zulu, who we will get a lot more details on later. With and the way this expands is the term who the term Zulu applies to broadens, because in 1816 Shaka Zulu unifies the Zulu clan with the Natal Nguni to form a new larger clan that he calls Zulu. They just sort of absorb this other slightly larger group and become massive and terrifying. It is yeah. Things start getting pretty messed up in 1816. But before we can really get into that, there's a few more things that are just fun facts about the Zulu, at least the traditional way of life that they had, that we thought you might want to know. Who wants to talk about marriage?
Aw, yay! I can't wait.
Yep, true love. Not really.
What? Man meets woman, they get married, they live happily ever after, right?
Yep. Man meets next woman, marries next woman. Man marries third woman, household starting to get a little crowded.
Oh, it's sister wives all over again.
Ironically enough, that was forbidden. See,
What, sister wives? Oh.
yep. See, the Zulu practiced polygamy. They had a strictly ranked patriarchal society. One man can have many wives, but a woman can only have one husband. All the wives are ranked by seniority under the first wife. The first wife was the only wife that could bear the heir of the man that they were all married to. Everybody else didn't inherit jack squat. But the one thing that was forbidden was marrying someone that was close to you. You cannot have two people of the same bloodline, as the Zulu tracked it, in the same house.
Oh, well, at least they're good, upstanding citizens with some sort of moral compass and boundaries.
Yeah. Fun fact, Shaka Zulu, the man we just talked about, is a violation of this custom.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yep.
Scandal.
His
This is
mother
way better than
and his
Bridgerton. Fuck
father
off.
were considered too closely related by Zulu standards to marry, but they did.
Rules for thee, but not for me.
And let me tell you, Shaka, for all his brilliance and all the things he does, definitely suffers from some form of mental illness. He is fricked up in the head at points.
I feel like all good leaders have something going on, you know?
He's got, yeah,
It happens.
things get messed up. Yep. But speaking of things that we don't understand, there's another social practice called the levirate, which is if your husband dies, you as his widow marry his brother and continue to have children with the brother in the name of the man who is dead. This is something that, like, European sensibilities, modern sensibilities do not really jive with, and it's it's an interesting cultural practice. The idea being, I think that if you married someone and they weren't able to produce an heir before they passed on, you went to the next nearest person and produced someone that the clan accepted as the heir of the deceased person. That way the bloodline could never end.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is these two practices are particularly useful given that the Zulu were a very militarized people. They were constantly at war. They were constantly losing men. And, that creates a gender imbalance and a lot of, newlywed husbands who never come home. And so this is all sort of to compensate for the fact that, the male lifespan of your traditional Zulu is not very long.
So some guy's brother could just be sitting there with no wives, and then his brother who's got six goes off to war, dies, and then next thing you know, this man's got six wives bearing children in his brother's name.
In his brother's name. Yep. Because, yep. Because, marriage is until we're all dead, apparently.
I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I mean, props on him for keeping it in the family, I guess. But on the same token, I don't. I think I'd be a little salty if I found out that after I died.
Yep. Yeah, this is why the Zulu were very paranoid about not having multiple people of the same of similar ancestry in the same marriage, because you're hopping around between people's siblings half the time.
Jeez.
The actual genealogy is, a little bit shooken up.
Well, you'll never be alone, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. Hopefully. Yep.
It seems like war and military was a big way of life for them.
Oh yeah, it is a big way of life. Upon turning 13, the children are organized into military units called age sets, not the actual term, and they are deployed to a military garrison far from wherever their home is to serve as a regimental unit under the chieftain.
Not a half bad strategy, just knowing how big an asshole teenage boys are.
Yep. Fun, yeah, yeah. Some fun facts with this. These different age sets would then be organized into larger units called Impi, which would be the fundamental fighting force of the Zulu. And one of the interesting ways this militarization thing ties back into the marriage is that no one in an age group can marry until the king of the Zulu gives permission for that entire age group to wed. So, basically imagine if the president had to go year by year and say everyone born in this year, you can now marry people. That's effectively what this strategy is.
I mean, that's one way to keep your population going, I guess.
Yeah.
Seems very strategic in that regard. Like, okay, now you're ready to be married off. See ya.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very fun because it also means that if the king happens to really hate someone in your age group, you are never getting anything.
Oh no.
That guy just died. We don't know how.
Oh, now everyone's granted the permission to marry. Yay!
Did it.
Fuck Steve.
Yep. No one likes Steve. Yep. The Zulu religion was focused on ancestor worship, and it was very much focused on the king. The leader of the Zulu is responsible for all magic, and he must perform rituals to ensure that that there will be prosperity across all of the lands. If there is not prosperity, if there is infertility, if there is disaster, it is because the king failed to perform sufficient rituals to protect all his territory, which is the mark of someone not being worthy of being king. And in a society where every man since the age of 12 has learned how to kill somebody, that's a pretty precarious position for your leaders to be in. Yeah, it it gets it gets real dangerous to be king. But yeah, you got to perform all the magic. It can it can be a bit of a hassle, but with that, that's kind of it for our section on just the general Zulu. Now we get into like the really fun stuff, namely the Zulu under Shaka. So Shaka rules from 1816 to 1828. He is the exiled son of a previous chieftain by the name of Senzan Gakona. And Senzan Gakona's marriage to Shaka's mother had been forbidden. Senzan Gakona did it anyway, had Shaka, and was forced to send the mother and the young child away in order to maintain his position.
So once he died, he was able to just come marching back in and take the throne?
Yep. Yeah, he returns following his father's death in 1816. And a part of this is because in Shaka's exile, Shaka becomes very friendly with the chieftain of his mother's tribe.
Oh.
And that tribe is bigger than the Zulu.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. My boy was
Yep.
he was thinking, he was planning.
Yep. This is also where the first signs of Shaka's absolute sociopathy comes into play, because he, in his takeover, institutes a very iron-fisted way of ruling, in which questioning him in any form is met with execution. There is no other punishment. All crimes are treason, and treason must be met with death.
Oh,
That's a pretty good way to keep people on your side.
It's absolutely terrifying, and because of this, his ascent to the throne marks the start of the Zulu Empire, even though it takes him the better part of about 4 years to actually form what we would consider the empire of the Zulu. But just
oh,
he's very efficient, he's very brutal, and just so it's like everyone just agrees that the second Shaka gets on the throne of the Zulu, it's over. That's been the historical consensus. Yeah. Among his first acts is he decides he needs to reorganize his army for one purpose: to maximize the cost of going to war with the Zulu. He redesigns all his people's weaponry and military tactics to emphasize brutality and bloodshed.
Oh no.
The traditional way of waging war was the Zulu would come out with throwing spears and oxhide shields. And this was traditional of all the southern Bantu people. They would stand on the hills opposite to each other, make a bunch of noise, and exchange a few volleys of javelins. The side that was clearly outnumbered based on, the number of javelins coming into you versus the number going out, would then concede the ground and leave, taking minimal casualties, but ensuring that one side had a clear victory. Shaka, replaces this. He does not like ranged warfare. So he replaces these javelins with what's called an assegai, which is this long-bladed short spear for stabbing. It's just, it's it's like a 2-foot stick with another like 2-foot sword on the end of it. And you run up with your oxhide shield to protect you from the javelins to the other guy, and you stab them to death. And this meant that combat's fought at close quarters, and that when you fight the Zulu, even if you were to win, you would lose so much more of your population than you were probably willing to risk in the first place. Because keep in mind, a lot of these tribes are very small. There's 800 tribes out here.
I think that was
Zulu. Yeah.
I think that was the direct plan, though. I think that was the reason for it was not just to win the battle, but to to literally decimate and to destroy your opponent. Because if they
Yeah.
have no one to
Yeah.
fight with, then
Yeah, this is to instill fear. And the Zulu might be the smallest of one of the 800 tribes, but they only have 1,500 people, which means that a lot of these clans and tribes out here are also probably equally small. You don't, if you have a population of only a few thousand, you don't have that many fighting aged men to risk in a single encounter. That's that makes the Zulu a terror to fight, right? He wants you to be afraid to fight him, because if you do, you will go extinct.
a true warrior.
Yeah. Yeah. He also does something that shows his organizational capacity. He gives all of his different barracks uniforms. Before you were going out there in just whatever you happen to have. And that could make things a little bit hard to tell apart if you were bringing in barracks from different areas. They might not necessarily know they're on the same side. But now he uniforms them. Each barracks has a set symbol on its oxhide shield and a set headdress. And you could look out from any other barracks and see if you saw this emblem with this headdress, you knew which barracks that was. You knew that this was your ally. You knew where they came from, and you wouldn't, there wasn't any, stop who goes there, because that this, who this is. This is friendly.
That's also really good for troop movement too, because you're able to really see how the troops are moving and where they're going based on the emblems.
It's just yield. It's just like really, it's like reminds me of banners, like from like European banners when they're marching in the battle.
Yep, definitely. He's using the oxhide shield the same way Europeans used flags, because it's big and everyone can see it. And this is also a sign that like Shaka recognizes early on in his empire building that he's encompassing a large enough population and a big enough territory that not everyone's going to know each other. People aren't going to, you're going to have barracks where no one from either group has ever met each other. How do you ensure they don't kill each other? They have recognizable standard uniforms.
Also creates a form of tribalism where these people are more willing to risk their lives and fight tooth and nail for the people under their same banner. Because they're their brother in arms. Like, there's a lot of benefits to having this uniformity.
This is my cohort. Everyone fuck off.
Yeah, exactly.
And symbols can cross language boundaries pretty easily too.
Yeah. He also invents, because he's got this new short spear close quartered combat, he invents for the Zulu a new form of military tactics, which he calls the bull's horns.
Ooh, tough.
Yep. Now, this is your standard pincer formation tactic, which was completely new in the region because before Shaka Zulu, you did not fight in a melee. You fought with ranged combat. Bull's horn only works if you're pinning someone down in a melee combat. And how it works is pretty interesting. It's a 4-part formation. You line up your army with a big central area called the chest. This area's job is to just march straight at the enemy line and fight them. This is your standard, just two masses of people mashing into each other like a pair of Barbie dolls making out.
Oh my god. Well, why of all references, that's the one you make?
Cursed visuals, Justin. Cursed visuals. Cursed.
And most of our audience are men in their 20s and 30s.
I know. And if it hurts them half as much as it hurts you, it is worth it.
Oh my god. You're sinking the whole ship just to kill the captain. I hope you know.
I'm willing to do it. I'm on Team Iceberg.
Oh my god. It was an inside job. Anyways.
Yeah. Then The two horns are a pair of smaller flanking forces that once the chest has brushed into the enemy line, just start running to the left and right respectively and attempt to just circle around and create this nice little pincer. The two horns that just, collapse on the enemy. Now your enemy is fighting on 3, 4 sides. They're encircled. They panic, they run, they die.
Yeah.
Effective. Very effective.
And the fourth part of this is there's a reserved formation, which they referred to as the loins. And this was just an extra little group of people for if something went horribly wrong with any one part of this formation, their job was to run up and strengthen that part.
I mean, you got to have reserve forces. You have alternatives that step up in the line of duty.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a level of tactical thinking that like Shaka understands. Don't throw everyone into the fight to begin with. Shaka is a military genius of his time, and that's a big part of what we're trying to emphasize here is that Shaka understands how to fight. He even has one of the most mobile armies in South Africa of his time. He could regularly move his army about 50 miles or 80 kilometers every day. And they did this because they had no baggage train. They were a raider army, which meant that they would go through and live off the land. They would, they would charge into whatever territory they were going through. If it was friendly, they'd requisition grain and, other food that they would need. If it was hostile, they'd raid your cattle and burn everything down. And, thus they were able to live off the land because friendly territory supplied them. Hostile territory, they just stole everyone's food.
You see, the part that I have with that specifically is the very differentiator between it is just consent, it sounds like. Because it sounds like the friendly territories may not have wanted to give up the grain and goods, but they knew better.
Yeah, well, Zulu crawls, which is what they called the districts, had an obligation to support the Zulu army in all endeavors.
Well, the army needs food anyways, yeah.
Yeah. So if you were in charge of a crawl of a district and the Zulu army passed through, you were obligated to feed and house them. And, if you were in enemy territory, well, the Zulu are gambling that you're not willing to burn everything down yourself and go scorched earth enough to let your people starve the next year, rather than just let the Zulu come through and eat.
But why do I feel like Shaka would be the type to just kill his own people for whatever reason?
Probably because he does.
Why are certain stereotypes like that just always accurate?
Well, we'll find out.
Is it the power? Is it the madness?
It's abandonment issues is what it is.
God damn it. If therapy only existed 200 years ago, this could have been avoided.
Yeah. Shaka suffers from sociopathy and abandonment issues.
Perfect leader. He was built for the role.
Yep.
Oh, no.
A big part of that manifests in his model of warfare. The Zulu fight to extermination. He wants to inflict the loss that he feels in his life on everyone else. So if you oppose the Zulu, he fights you to the last man. You incorporate. He's willing to incorporate the remnants of anything that stands down. Your options when Shaka comes to your border is
incorporate or die.
Become Zulu, have all the rights of being Zulu, and serve me, or I will hunt your people down to the last child.
God, that's a mental pathway to
and
go down.
He regularly fulfills that promise, like Genghis Khan and Attila the Hun before him. He fulfills that promise repeatedly until it sticks and people stop trying to fight him.
It's a good thing we haven't had one of those here in North America.
Yeah, never.
Not once.
Never. Do not speak his name. Do not speak the name.
What?
But all of this comes together so that the Zulu, which are maybe 2,000 people when Shaka takes over, have quadrupled in size within the first year. Within 2 years, he has wiped out the only two threats to Zulu expansion in the region, which are the Ndwandwe and the Kwabe. Those two tribes were the only ones that by themselves were big enough to come in and say, no more Zulus. And in 2 years, he's conquered both of them. At this point, he is unstoppable.
He really said nobody is going to get in my way. And he made true on that.
Don't stop me. Don't stop me. Don't stop me.
Don't stop me. Don't stop me. No.
By 1823, so just 7 years after his ascension to the throne, the Zulu are the dominant Bantu force. And they have caused a diaspora throughout South Africa so large that it has actually reached Cape Town, which is 1,600 kilometers away.
Oh.
Golly.
What's that in Freedom Mutants?
Yeah. He basically, he's caused over 1,000 square miles of people to just flee for their lives.
Just imagine being the guy in Cape Town that saw the first of the refugees running, screaming into town, like, hey, what's his deal? And then just seeing the hordes of others talking about this mad warlord that's just going on a rampage through South Africa's countryside.
Yeah. The only other time that's probably happened I can think of is probably Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
This like other steps like moving in towards like the like Kiev or the Russian principalities.
Yep. Genghis Khan forcing people into Russia, Western Russia. Attila the Hun forcing everyone into France.
Yeah, the Franks, the Burgundians, supposedly, the Romans weren't very good at keeping track of who's actually who or cared.
Yeah. Oh, you are barbarians. Is it because you sound like ba 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 ba?
Yeah.
No,
actually, it's the Greeks who invented that stereotype because they thought the people who lived north of Macedonia, sounded
the
like
Illyrians,
sheep
I think is what they were.
When they talked, so they called them ba ba. The Barbaros, ba ba ba.
Yeah, it's essentially like mocking them as like you speak baby talk.
Yeah, you speak. Yeah, you sound like my sheep. Ha ha ha.
God, so this man was just an insane warlord, highly skilled, and just brutal as brutal could be.
Yep. He rules from his Zulu capital of Bulawayo, and he goes absolutely batshit crazy 11 years into holding absolute power. In 1827, nature
happens a lot.
Yep. Nature takes its course, and the inevitable happens.
Shaka
Zulu. Yep. No, Shaka Zulu has to bury his mother.
Aww.
Oh.
This is arguably the only human being on Earth he felt any form of compassion for.
He was a mama's boy.
Yep. In response to her death, he rounds up 7,000 Zulu and kills them.
Jesus.
So that all shall know his pain.
Yikes.
Oh, wow. That's pretty accurate behavior.
Yep. He then forbids any children to be born for a period of 1 year and goes around through his territory systematically executing any livestock that bears a calf and any human being who does.
Oh my God.
Yep. He kills all pregnant women. He kills their husbands. He kills all the cattle. He forbids the Zulu from growing food for a year. He basically believes that the world should end now. Everyone should die because he lost his mother.
I get being sad, but geez, therapy really would have benefited this guy.
Again,
A high-functioning sociopath with severe abandonment issues. But he has been abandoned by the only person he has loved.
oh.
He also decides that it's not enough to kill his own people. He has to kill all the other people in the world too.
Yeah, what will happen to all the allies he just made?
Oh, he didn't make allies. He had subjects that he conquered.
Well, yeah, still. Like, that's rebellion material.
Yeah. Well, he takes them all, forms them into a massive army, and launches them first at Cape Town, which they actually do reach before turning back. They don't actually destroy Cape Town, but like the Zulu army parks outside Cape Town and says, "Hey, you remember 5 years ago when all those people came screaming into your borders about some madman killing them?"
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's gone insane. He's decided that the whole world is dead. So, could you pretend to be dead for us?
God, it's like King George the Third.
Hey,
no. Oh, wait a minute. Isn't he alive during this? Is this
No, this is not George this would not be George the Third's reign in 1827.
Would be Edward?
Yeah, it'd be Edward just before Vic, because Vic would come to power in a couple of years.
Yeah. King George did rule at about the same time as Shaka Zulu, because King George dies in 1820, I believe. So yeah, this was pretty close, yeah.
So one just decided to turn his own empire. He wanted his empire to die with him.
Yep. Now, when the Zulu army returns and Shaka realizes they're still alive after going to Cape Town, he immediately orders them to march as far north as north goes and kill all in their path.
Jesus Christ.
In response, his two half-brothers, Dingane and Malangana, murder him.
Oh my God.
Fair.
In 1828.
Yeah, I think they did everyone a solid there.
Yeah, because this has gone too far. It's gone on long enough. The troops can't even come home and rest. The people cannot farm or repopulate. There is nothing. This is why after 12 years, Shaka Zulu ceases to exist. Because God damn it. How messed up is this guy?
Quite a bit. That is quite the burnout.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like one of those fireworks you buy where it doesn't like shoot up into the air. Instead, the box starts burning a little bit and then it detonates on the ground.
Truly a man after my own heart, honestly.
Yeah.
Shine bright, you crazy diamond.
Yeah. Now, before Shaka's death, there are a couple of fun things that he gets to do to the Europeans and to everyone he doesn't conquer. The first of these we touched on, it's called the Methakane, or the Crushing. And basically, it's a wave of mass murder. Because all the people fleeing the Zulu flee inland, where they encounter more people. So they do the reasonable thing. They murder those people. This causes those people to flee further west, murdering the next group of people. Up to the point where like people are outside Cape Town, 1,600 kilometers away, going, "There is no land left. Let us in. Let us in."
Like Eric Andre outside the White House, let me in, let me in.
Yep. basically. And this destroys the clan structure of South Africa. This paves the way for a massive land grab by the Boers, by all the Dutch settlers, and does eventually set the stage for the Boer Wars between the British and the Dutch. Because the tribes of central South Africa no longer have a functioning system in which they can unify in the face of a great external threat. That's all gone to hell. At the end of this crushing, some 2 million people are dead.
Gee, wait, 2 million. That's a massive, massive amount.
Yep. And this does not include the people killed directly by the Zulu. This is just people killed as a result of fleeing from the Zulu and the massive domino effect of murder spree that follows.
Oh my god. So that's just the windfall of the cataclysmic event. Wow.
Yep. None of this is the bloodshed done directly by the Zulu.
I wonder what their death toll is.
Yeah. Probably not as much since it didn't cover as large of a territory because they're empire building and not just domino falling. But still, probably fairly hefty. You know, I'm going with several 100,000 is my estimate.
Jeez.
But yeah, I do. Unfortunately, we do not have numbers for how much the Zulu directly killed. Just how many people were killed by the crushing. The other big thing that Shaka Zulu gets to do for the Zulu is he gets to establish contact with the Europeans. He
Who's giving these people guns?
Yep. In
Who gave Shaka Zulu a gun?
Yep. Yeah. Let's give the Zulu guns. What could go wrong? Yep. In 1820,
the British really just didn't want the empire.
In reality, the British were the inferior race. They were the low ones.
Yep. In 1824, a trading post in Port Natal, which is now Durban, was established by the Farewell Trading Company. They're only 100 miles or 160 kilometers from Bulawayo, the Zulu capital under Shaka. And the Zulu were very quick to find them.
Understandable.
And they discovered that these Europeans just loved selling you shit.
Wow, they just love handing me money.
Yeah, and thus they were permitted to live on this little cove.
We have no idea where they came from, but they keep giving us money.
They keep just showing up with all these shiny trinkets, and it makes them so happy when we take them.
Yep. And two people actually on this colony, two of like the original settlers, a men named Harry Francis Finn and Nathaniel Isaacs, are responsible for writing down almost everything we have on early Nguni history. So
early anthropologists, we love it.
Yeah. So basically, the Zulu from Shaka on backwards, we understand what they were and how they were because of this trading post and these two men.
Okay, that's cool.
Early ethnographies, we love to see it.
Yep. Everything else would have been lost to time come the end of our little story here in the late 19th century because of what the British inevitably do.
Because it is unfortunate that during this time period, anthropologists were all the joke armchair anthropologists come from this period because they would rather just observe from a distance and be like, that's what they're doing.
There was a whole period of transition with anthropology where it was like, maybe we should go out into the field.
It was all for the benefit of the empire, basically.
Yep. It was you were the model of a modern major general. Yes, Pirates of Penzance reference. Here we go. Now, Shaka, he meets some of these people, or at the very least, a lot of the goods they sell make their way back to him specifically. And he assesses the things the Europeans sell, and he decides he kind of likes them. The things they're willing to trade to us are these artifacts are interesting, but they are clearly made by an inferior people.
I was right.
So
He declares the British an inferior race, and thus he allows them to maintain their trading post under the Farewell Trading Company.
Oh, these sweet, simple creatures just
Yeah.
love handing us their trinkets.
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
they're basically rats. They're
Yep.
Oh,
plagues and
yeah.
disease.
Yeah. This gave the British a foothold near Zulu territory, which proves to be a major miscalculation, especially as Shaka Zulu's successors are not as powerful as him. The
Oh,
great unifying warlord, he is the height of Zulu strength. There are a couple of his successors that are very good kings, but none of them are the absolute force of nature that Shaka Zulu was.
he was a real cult of personality, essentially, right? Like
Yeah.
he was the only reason everything was
Yeah.
together. And
Yeah,
so
like
when he was gone, it pretty much all fell apart. It wasn't going to be.
well, it stays on through through some subpar and some actually very good kings, but it's kind of like how with Romans
Mm.
there's Augustus, and then no one matches Augustus's ability.
Or like Alexander.
Yeah, until like Trajan, some 200 years later.
Right.
Even though there are very good kings like Vespasian and uh, you know, and whatnot,
Like
still in there.
like
Claudius.
they're all just living in his shadow. They don't live up to the
Yeah,
fame.
yeah. They don't they do not match his power, and that's going to be unfortunate because they're going to need some Shaka Zulu in a little bit. Yeah. The Zulu are responsible for another major event of South African history
Oh.
called the Great Boer Trek. Now, this is the first major event that happens after the death of Shaka.
Mhm.
It begins in 1834, and what it is a massive land grab by the Dutch
Oh, wow.
that is made possible because of the Mefakane, because of the crushing.
I mean, when the native people leave their lands, it's open to European settlement. We learn that everywhere.
Yep.
I mean, I like to imagine the Dutch because they're really like the Netherlands is really big on like land reclamation from the sea, right? I like to imagine that when you say it's a land grab, they're literally like digging up the
Yeah.
land and shipping it to the
Oh my god,
Netherlands.
that's how they filled in most of the.
Yep. That's how
So
they're
they were
filling
like,
all the
they
dikes.
stole our land. Like, well, where is it? Literally,
It's
it's in
literally,
the Netherlands.
it's literally, yeah, that's funny.
You mean
Yeah,
our sovereign soils that we have here?
yeah,
There's
yeah,
just like a big hole. There's like a big like cut out in the middle of like the Congo.
yeah,
Oh no, wait, that was the Belgians.
yeah. No, that's the Belgians. Yep. No,
Sorry, so not the
wrong,
Congo, but like
wrong,
They
South
just left
Africa.
waffles behind.
wrong people. Yeah,
No, they did not.
yeah, the Dutch do this for two reasons. Number one, they want to get away from all the British ships on the coast, and number two, they think they can get a much bigger, more insular empire if they take over the like mainland, like the central plateau of South Africa, than if they try to fight for footholds on the shoreline.
Oh God. So these some of these South African issues really do run deep.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah, and
Holy, this is Elon Musk's heritage.
yeah, and this actually sets the stage for something we've covered before, the Boer Wars, which we talked about all the way back in season 3 of Historical Humans, and the Anglo-Zulu War, which will come later. And this basically sets up just a series of excuses for the British to just start systematically conquering everyone in what is now South Africa.
Oh boy.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. The Great Boer Trek pushes eastward all the way to Zulu territory. And there's actually a number of battles between the Dutch and the Zulu in 1838 and 1839, in which the Zulu emerge victorious.
What part of South Africa, like in that interior, is where the emerald's coming out of?
Yeah, so like the Zulu are kind of the northwestern coastline of South Africa.
Okay.
So the Boers have gone from Cape Town, which is like the southeastern uh, end of uh, end of South Africa, crossed through the plateau, taken it over, and are then trying to push for the east coast.
Okay.
And the Zulu say, "That's ours. Back off." There's a big fight in what's called the Battle of Blood River in 1838, which proves that the Boers can overpower the Zulu. And this is a major defeat for the Zulu, even though the Zulu hold off the Boers. There's the illusion of their invincibility that was established by Shaka all the way back in like 1816 is broken. The Zulu can die.
Yeah.
And this prompts a civil war between two people we've met before, Dingane and Mpande, who basically kill each other in 1840, fighting over which of them should be chief now, since somebody clearly messed up.
Right.
It's been 12 years since they killed their half brother, and now they've just had it with each other because this is the first military defeat they've been dealt. Now Mpande wins this civil war, but he loses a good chunk of the empire to the Boers while he's distracted. And Mpande proves himself to be a good king of the Zulu because he understands that there's one person that the Boers hate more than the Zulu.
The
British.
British.
The British. So in
Yes.
1843, he arranges British intervention to attack the Boers and allow him to get his land back. And this works out okay for him because at this time, the British are more concerned with dealing with the much larger Boer threat than they are with the Zulu. The Boers are bigger. The Boers have all this new land. The Boers have two freaking countries in South Africa right now.
The Boers are coming. The Boers are coming.
And they're just, so the British do not care about the Zulu in 1843. And Mpande, for his part, rules for a long time. He rules from 1840 to 1872. He rules for 32 years. And he stabilizes the Zulu Empire while the British and the Boers kind of bleed each other out. He's actually able to get the Zulu back on track, get them going again, get them sort of powerful. So much so that in 1756, the Zulu are strong enough to start a civil war with themselves. Not over who should be king, but over who should be the king's heir. The princes all have large enough armies loyal to each other that they can then murder one another in open warfare. That's how well this is going. And two of Mpande's sons are basically killing each other. There is one big battle, the Battle of Ndondakusuka, that just ends the war decisively. And Mpande's younger son, Setshawao, supplants his older brother Mibuyazi as the successor to Mpande. And Setshawal rules in his father's name from 1756, or sorry, from
1872.
1856 to 1856 to 1872. Blah. That took a moment there. Just numbers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it happens.
Numbers are hard.
A lot
Yeah.
of numbers. A lot of numbers.
But basically, he rules for half of Mimpande's reign. And this is in part showing that Mimpande, despite being the winner of his own civil war in 1840 and being a pretty good statesman, doesn't have the military control that his sons do, or that his half brother Shaka did. This is the statesman king rather than the warrior king. And Setshawao does benefit a lot from ruling for 22 years with his as his sort of on behalf of his father. Because when he ascends the throne on his father's death in 1872, he he's got a lot of experience with dealing with the British and their bullshit. And that serves the Zulu very well for his the duration of his reign.
Like, especially in negotiation tactics.
In negotiation tactics, specifically aggressive negotiations, also known as stabbing. Yeah.
I didn't say it was gentle negotiations.
Yeah. Yep. And with that, we get to come to the British. What are the British doing? What are they doing? They are
Nothing
being
good, probably.
British.
So nothing good, yeah.
Yep. They establish a strong presence in Natal during the 1840s and 1850s. They take that one little trading post that Farewell Trading Company set up in 1824 and just grow it into a freaking city and a fortress.
Okay.
Yep. They begin interfering with the Zulu attempts at expansion. The Zulu are engaged in a border dispute with a number of other tribes and with the Boers over control of 3 river valleys: the Pongolu, the Ingwamuva, and the Mizinyathi. And throughout the 1860s, the British constantly ensure that no one controls those valleys, that there is always room for another fight over who gets them. And the Zulu, unfortunately, are distracted with trying to push off their old enemies, that they don't realize the real threat is this new guy down here who sometimes helps you, sometimes helps your enemy. This little
always gives you
friend
gifts.
they got in the British.
Do you really have a friend in them?
You definitely don't have a friend in the British. Not in this instance.
The Toy Story theme starts playing, but it's all the UK flags start descending.
God, we talk a lot of smack about the British. We do love the British, but their colonial past and their colonial history is one that is very dark and very negative when you look back on it in actuality. So
Like also the Portuguese.
Or the Spanish.
Yeah, a lot of
the French.
The French surprisingly weren't as bad. They made love, not war.
Tell that to Algeria.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. Nor do we talk about
pushing the pillow over the head.
Nor do we talk about Vietnam, but
Yeah. But the British, however, do deserve all the scorn that is coming to them in this episode, thanks to one man in particular, Sir Theophilus Shepstone. Now, Mr. Shepstone here was a South African statesman for the British from 1845 to 1893. All the British efforts to dominate South Africa were controlled by him. They were concentrated under him. He directed them. He made up most of the initiatives that the British pushed for in trying to, shall we say, establish a government of South Africa.
Oh.
He is the man where almost all the horrible things come from.
Even apartheid?
Yikes.
I did not look at his personal biography, but I would not be surprised if he wrote that into law.
Yeah, we might want to look into that.
He was that horrible of a human being.
Yeah, because I don't think apartheid's 50 years ago yet.
Yeah. He instigates what will be known as the Anglo-Zulu War in 1879. And by instigate, I mean he just straight up starts murdering people.
Oh.
It's very much the Anakin Skywalker meme of not just the men.
But the women and children too.
Yep. They're animals, and I slaughtered them like animals. Ah, yes. That is the mentality of this. I'm going to call him a person. Be generous here. The British under Shepstone identified the Zulu as a major obstacle to the British efforts to consolidate all their power in South Africa at about the start of the 1870s. And they immediately begin plotting the elimination of the Zulu. In 1879, Shepstone is afraid that the Zulu might, I don't know, violently resist British plans to rule them and defend their own sovereignty.
Why would they ever do that? Come on.
Out of this fear, the British send the Zulu an ultimatum. You will destroy all your weapons, and you will pay the British government an indemnity every year for having ever owned weapons.
I don't think that went over well.
You must continue to pay me because you had weapons and stood against me.
Yep. The Zulu refuse, and the British invade in January of 1879. Now, Mpande, who has been dead for about 7 years, spent his entire reign attempting to strengthen the Zulu army. So that by the time this war breaks out, the active duty military of the Zulu Empire is somewhere between 40 and 60,000 people. From a tribe that, mind you, 60 years prior numbered 1,500 human beings.
It's quite the build-up.
Yep. Now, the Zulu are currently under Cetshwayo, who he's got 20 years of experience of military governance when the British invade. And because of that, the Zulu annihilate the initial British force at the Battle of Islandwana. The British had decided to advance arrogantly. They had assumed that the Zulu could not stand against them. They are savages with spears and oxide shields, after all. So they refused to scout the terrain. So the Zulu emerged from the corn and the hills and the rivers and the fields and the cliffs.
Good for
and
them.
Murdered them.
Good for the Zulu.
They kill 800 British soldiers and capture over 1,000 rifles. So now they have guns. The British were afraid of the Zulu when the Zulu had spears.
That is embarrassing. Can't imagine what the British would do after being embarrassed in warfare.
Yep.
Oh, I think this is where Edward leaves.
Yep.
And then Victoria comes in.
Yep. The Zulu, the same day at the Battle of Islandwana,
launched. Oh no, Victoria would have been part of this for a while now.
At this point.
Yeah. This is all Victoria. This is 1879. This is Victoria. The Zulu, same day as Islandwana, launched the attack on Rorke's Drift, thinking that they have the British forces split and routing.
Mm-hmm.
Except Rorke's Drift is a is a semi-fortified British position. And because the British are dug in and can't be properly enveloped, a 12-hour firefight ensues between the British and the Zulu,
Uh,
in which 500 Zulu are killed by 120 British soldiers. The Zulu eventually retreat, and it is a resounding victory for the British, albeit at this point somewhat of a Pyrrhic one, as their main army has just been annihilated, and these people at Rorke's Drift are kind of on their own.
yeah, the Zulu made the fatal like EU4 mistake when assaulting a fort that has a higher morale probably than you in a
Yep.
fortified position.
Yep. The people at Rorke's Drift had already decided before the first Zulu crested the hills that they were going to die and that they were going to die at this drift. And once 120 people with guns have accepted that, there is very little that can be done to stop them. It's a little bit like the Alamo, where 185 held back 5,000.
Yeah,
It's just one of those things. You just need a slightly fortifiable position and a willingness to die on this hill.
yeah, this is literally them just dying on this hill.
Yeah, they just refused. Now, surprisingly enough, it's not Rorke's Drift, but Island Wanda that that seals the Zulu's fate. Because you see, London, the British government, had not been briefed on any plan to invade Zululand.
Oh,
they didn't
no.
even know about the ultimatum until after the battles of Island Wanda and Rorke's Drift.
No,
I love how
really just have
the
no
colonist
control over this.
the colonist went to war on behalf of the British Empire before the British Empire even knew.
Yep, that is yeah, and that's because Shepstone there was operating outside his goddamn authority, starting a war over absolutely nothing. His cause for war was, if we tell these people they are now subjects of the British Empire, they might say no.
So naturally, we kill them all first.
Yep. Yep. Now, the defeat of the British at Islandwana was considered such a humiliating insult that London felt it had no recourse but to annihilate the Zulu and show to the world that no tribal people could ever withstand, even for a moment, against the might of the British Empire. It
Oh
became
boy.
it became a matter of national pride and personal standing on the world stage. If they allowed the Zulu to maintain any sovereignty whatsoever, they would be admitting to their rivals in France and Austria and Russia that the British were finally weak.
Or, God forbid, after having recently put down an uprising in India, show other colonies that they could also defy the British and survive.
Yep.
It's not about defying them and living, it's about defying them and surviving.
Yep. Now, the British decide that the only way they'll end the war, is the total surrender of the Zulu people. They launch a massive retaliatory force, which sees the Zulu manage another initial victory with the Battle of Loblain. And at Holbein, they are able to repel the advance force that comes in actually from the north. The British have been invading up through the south up to this point. They come in from the north because the British have colonies to the north of Zululand. However, that's just the spear tip. The main weight of the army comes down afterwards, and it's too much. The British launched systematic victories at Kambula, Gingindluvu, and finally at the Zulu capital of the time, Ulundi. At some point between Shaka's reign and Cetewayo's, the capital did move from Bulawayo to Ulundi, and it's unclear at what point that transition happened.
But effectively, the British made it a point to decimate any and all of their settlements that they can.
Yeah, they sacked the capital. Cetewayo himself is captured in August of 1879. He is imported to England as a curiosity, and his people
That's
are left at
unfortunate.
the mercy of the British.
That's unfortunate. Yikes.
The British do what they do best. They divide the Zulu Empire and do a divide and rule policy, where they break it up into a couple of smaller districts, put puppets in charge of those districts, demand unreasonable amounts of tribute, and then wait for the economic starvation to cause those districts to start killing each other. Doesn't take long. There's in 4 years, there's the Zulu Civil War of 1883, which leaves the Zulu with so little left to them that they cannot oppose the British Declaration of Annexation in 1887, where the British just sign a piece of paper that says, Zululand is now part of the British colonies. We now rule it, we own it.
Oh, Britain, how you never change.
Yep. Just look at that. The Zulu Empire in 71 years goes from nothing to everything to nothing again.
Everything is cyclical and everything comes to the end thanks to the god dang British.
Yep.
Well, cool. I think that's actually probably a great point for us to wrap up today's podcast episode.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys enjoyed, let us know down below. And a little bit of a sneak peek here. What do we have coming up next? It looks like we're going to be talking about Zoroastrianism. Ooh.
Yeah, that's right. Next episode, we keep it with the Z's, and we do an episode of something I don't think we've really done too much of before. But we take an episode on religion.
That was my idea.
We're going to torture our research department on this one.
Yeah, It representing a religion for one of these is going to be a very difficult task, and so we hope you tune in to see how I botch it.
It'll be great.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.